Good morning, YouTubers. T-Square here with T-Square Talk. Hope everybody's having a great day. Got a great video planned out for you guys today. Today, I want to talk a little bit about what happens when essentially gold and silver decouple. What will happen when just literally people don't believe in the paper price that's pushed to us. I know some people out there will say there's no such thing as a paper price versus a physical price, but clearly there is, because you see the paper price at one price, and that's the price that essentially the spot price. But then there's a secondary price, a price to actually buy physical coins, physical bricks, blocks, bars, whatever you want to call it, of gold and silver. And there's always going to be a premium or a secondary price, because essentially the paper price, there's a lot of factors that go into getting the physical. And I believe that one day, a day will come where literally something bad will happen in the market, and all of a sudden money will start flooding into gold and silver and other precious metals, hard assets, and essentially we'll see I can barely pronounce it, Exter'S pyramid. We're going to talk a little bit about that Exter'S pyramid today when we pull that up. It's pretty amazing when you look at it, how much money is in the world versus how much gold, silver, cash, government bonds, and so on, and what happens when it really does all start flowing down. And let's see, did I lose it? What happened? Okay. So I kind of wanted to go ahead and talk a little bit about this today too, and I think it's going to be a great video. So if you enjoy the video, please take a quick minute, hit that subscribe button if you're not subscribed, hit that thumbs up for me, and leave me a comment. Let me know your thoughts on how this could play out. So I have a belief, well, actually, before we get into the talk, let's take a quick look at what the prices are doing, because we did see some excitement in the prices yesterday, as we've seen silver jump all the way up to $39, but it's starting to kind of fizzle back down. So the big question is, will it hold throughout the week? I actually talked to someone yesterday. He needed some extra cash. He thought the silver price was high, and he offered sell to me. He wanted to sell some. He needed some money, and when I talked to him, I said, you know, were we just seeing that big jump, a dollar jump in one day? I'll give you 38 bucks an ounce, and it was only 38.50, I think, at the time. And he said, yeah, I'll take that. And so that was the deal. They weren't really special ounces or anything. It was just generic ounces, and I added them to my stack. I thought that was a good deal. 25 cents essentially, or 40 cents under spot, something like that, 50 cents under spot, whatever it was. We're seeing people, though, out there that are just starting to struggle and have a hard time, and it almost seems like it's one hard time after another. Literally, things just keep coming up, and more people are getting frustrated with silver. There's people in the chat that are watching this video right now that, you know, yeah, they don't want to see the price keep coming down. They want to see the price move up higher. I actually had a comment yesterday asking me how long I want to see the price dip for. I mean, here's the thing. I like acquiring more. And until I get that amount, that magic number that I believe is enough, I guess, and everybody's going to have a different magic number, although I will say it seems like that number keeps getting pushed back. And a lot of that has to do with recognizing gold and silver as money. The people that follow gold and silver, not all of them really see it as money. They buy it because they see it as an amazing investment, an undervalued asset that essentially is in short supply, high demand, and manipulated. And so they believe that eventually that manipulation is going to break, and we're going to see true price revealed. And I believe what's going to happen is a day will come where something bad is going to happen in the markets, and all of a sudden there will be a panic, and that panic is going to push people to realize that they're invested in essentially thin air assets, stuff that's just paper, whether that be paper shares in a company, whether that be paper shares in gold, SLV, GLD, that kind of stuff. or Bitcoin or whatever the case may be, and they're going to realize I don't really have anything physical. And we're going to take a look at two different Exter'S pyramids, because there was one, the one that everybody's seen, and then there was another one on physical, and it actually dealt with everything from government bonds, cash, gold, but then it even had food, water, shelter, stuff that people need. And when stuff really starts breaking down, the direction that we could see a lot of money flow to and how that could play out. So yeah, we're up 79 cents in the last 24 hours. Some people will say that's good. Me personally, it's Monday. We're seeing a pop. Will we see a beat down come later in the week and be back down? Ultimately, I'm just trying to acquire when it comes to silver. And I know I talk to a lot of people that would like a little longer to acquire, but there's always going to be that person that wants a little bit more, that person that wants to acquire for a little bit more. And I hate to say it, I'm probably that person. I'm one of them people, because I realize gold and silver is money. No matter what someone tells me, I haven't heard a solid argument saying why it's not. I hear people say it's a collectible and all this other stuff, but it's not a collectible. It's a hard asset, and it has been for the longest time, since the beginning of time. Moving on, taking a quick look at gold. We got gold at $3,385. It was up on the day, but now it's kind of fizzling back down again. A lot of excitement usually comes out on Mondays. People hear stuff over the weekend. They hurry up. They put their order in as soon as the market's open, and we see that pop. And then usually we see it kind of fizzle back down. And the question is, how long will it stay down for? You know, everybody always wants to know that. And we got a lot of stuff happening right now, so I'm kind of curious to see what some of the big things are going to happen, like the Fed meeting later in the month. It's only, let's see here, 1 week away. 1 week away from today. So taking a quick look at Bitcoin, I still have to give props to Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is over. I mean, it's 117,442. It's definitely been holding on and doing well, riding up there. Now, I'm not even going to begin to say it's at a top, it's at an all-time high. Could there always be someone out there with big money? Yes, that could put more money in and drive it up higher. Now with this new Genius Act, it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. Even though the Genius Act is focusing on stable coins, a lot of money will essentially flow into cryptocurrencies, I believe. And a lot of it has to do with people creating new stable coins, and those stable coins basically taking them funds, selling them off, taking those funds, and now buying treasuries, which kind of, that's the genius in the whole act, in my opinion, is convincing people to start buying up American treasuries. And you know, even though we're so far in debt and there's no way it can be paid back, a lot of people are going to put their money into stable coins. Whoever owns the stable coins is going to be required to buy treasury bonds while holding the money. And essentially, it's going to get interesting to see how this is going to play out. Now, obviously, the interest that does not go back to the holders. That goes to the companies. They get their interest payments. So they really make out, especially if people start adapting it. Think about if you owned, for a quick second, some stable coin, some cryptocurrency, and all of a sudden, you know, billions and trillions of dollars are floating in, and you essentially can take those trillions of dollars, invest them in government treasuries, and who does that help? Well, the treasuries stays up, the government makes out of that, because now they're finding another source, since a lot of countries are dumping treasury bonds because they're losing faith in the dollar. So this is a good deal for the government. And then on top of that, the people that make the stablecoin make out, and who is left holding the bag is going to be essentially the individual investors. And one day I believe they're going to wake up and they're just going to realize, hey, we don't really have anything physical, as we continue to run the debt even higher, and the dollar is still dipping. And here's the thing. I know some people will say it's not dipping that bad, but it's dipping against other currencies that are also dipping. And as you see that, you understand what's really going on. Moving on to what I wanted to talk about today is Exter'S pyramid. So the theory of this pyramid is basically the majority of the money sits up here. If you put all the money in this pyramid, there's very little money in gold. There's less money as you come down the pyramid. There's a little bit more money in cash, and so on and so on. But the majority of the money is in unfunded government liabilities and derivatives. As you go down, there's a little less money, but still a lot of money in private businesses, private equities, non-monetary commodities. As you come down, you get into corporate bonds, public stocks, securitized debts. As you go down, government bonds. Before I might have said, did I say corporate bonds or government bonds above that? But then you get into government bonds, then cash, and then gold. Now, as you come down, you have to understand, though, there's less of it. There's less to put your money in. If all the money was to flow into gold, there's not a lot of gold in the system that people can just physically go out and buy. So it would drive the price up astronomically. And when people start getting scared, the money essentially flows down. And when stuff actually breaks down totally, then the money starts coming down, and then people really start moving into the assets, stuff that they can actually hold tangible. Gold, there's paper gold, but then there's also physical gold. Now, this breaks it up a little bit more because there's a lot of people out there that are invested in paper gold, and that's why I kind of like this chart right here. See if I can open it up in bigger form. Not really. Well, yeah, actually, I guess it is right here. So we just took a look at this one right here. But when you look at this one right here, as people start realizing, as stuff starts getting bad, you have to understand people are going to move. There's a lot of people out there that are invested in paper gold. I mean, think about the people that are invested in gold. The majority of that is in paper gold. That's why when you look at the U.S. debt clock, you see paper contracts for huge amounts of gold. I can't remember if it was like 300 or 220. Let's pull it up real quick, and then we can actually know for sure. U.S. debt clock. So this is the U.S. debt clock. Some of y'all have seen this before on the channel. It shows you guys, all the liabilities of the government, all the money coming in from the government, all the different things, how they spend that money. But in the bottom corner over here, you see paper to gold. So 135 paper ounces of gold to every 1 physical ounce of gold. 363 paper ounces of silver to every 1 physical ounce of silver. Now, what that means is essentially there's 135 claims to a piece of gold. Well, only one person is going to get that. So 134 people are going to go without, and one is going to get the ounce. Now, I know someone out there is going to say, well, there's a lot more than 1 ounce. Well, yes, there is. But there's also a lot more than 135 paper ounces of gold. If you were to take the ratio, every 135 people that think they own an ounce of gold, 134 of them aren't going to get their physical gold. What they're going to get is essentially just a piece of paper. Let's see where it went. There it is. So as people start moving their money down, some people are going to be like, oh, I already got gold. I ain't worried about it. And then they're going to realize they got paper gold. And that's where this breakdown, once the pyramid flips, all of a sudden, it's physical gold that people are after. Now, as you look at this, you also have water, food, clothing, shelter, energy. These are tangible items. These are things that people actually physically need. Now, I've always had people that say when stuff collapses, no one's going to want your gold. Well, the truth of the matter is they're going to want gold, because they're going to understand that eventually gold is going to, literally, people are going to need money. Yeah, there'll be a time period where Water is the most important thing, and then food is the next most important thing. Shelter, clothing, that type of stuff. But there's a lot of that out there. I mean, there's tons of water out there. Let's be honest. If all of a sudden the city water got shut off wherever you're at and you couldn't get water, well, there's still a lot of water out there. You just have to go and get it. You need to know how to purify your own water. You need to know how to come up with your own food. Do you know how to hunt? Do you know how to go in the woods and forage for food? Clothing. Obviously, people are going to need clothing and shelter, but you might just be wearing your old whatever you have kicking around, your old clothes, essentially. Shelter, I mean, anybody can build a shelter. I mean, you can figure something out, whether it's a tent, whether it's tarps, whether it's boxes, pallets, anything can be made. But most people are going to have houses, even if stuff breaks down. When you look at stories from the Great Depression, a lot of people didn't have food. They had to borrow, they had to get help, they had to find ways to get it. And in order to get it, they had to give something up. Don't think for a minute that a government is going to come out and save everybody. I actually was having this talk one day with a friend of mine, and he's like, no, look what happened. Look what happened in New Orleans during Katrina. Government came in and they brought food to everybody. Look what happened. You were in Hurricane Harvey. You didn't have nothing to worry about. They came in, they put MREs out, and I mean, you could take a couple cases if you wanted. I mean, some people were they were literally towards the end of Hurricane Harvey. They were literally, you pulled up with your truck to get a case of MREs and a case of water and a bag of ice. They would throw like 5 cases of MREs in the back of the truck. Why? Because they didn't care at that point. They were just trying to get rid of it. Now, think about the scale of that, though. Hurricane Harvey was one town, essentially, or a couple towns. Katrina, was a big area, but a small area on scale with the United States. People around the United States were sending food to these hazard zones. Right now, a lot of people are sending food to the areas in Texas that flooded. And that's great. It's good to see, people helping. But when the time comes and stuff really starts collapsing, I'm convinced it will be hard to get people to donate food. You'll see a lot of charities start drying up. You'll see a lot of food banks start running out. Why? Because they got to get their food from somebody. And if there's some kind of a major crisis where all of a sudden everybody's out of work, look what happened during the whole cough. I don't like to talk about that. Let's be honest. Stuff censored out there. But during cough, a lot of people were out of work, and a lot of people were going to food banks. I mean, they didn't even keep stuff in stock. They were running out every week. And so once you realize that could happen again, it won't be most likely cough like that. It will be something more monetary, I believe. I believe we are a step away from some sort of major monetary collapse, whether that be a collapse of the dollar, a collapse of the stock market, whatever it may be. You can't go in debt indefinitely. I actually talked to one person at one point, and she is heavily in debt. I'm talking a lot of money on credit cards. And when I asked her about it, hey, what's your plan? Do you have a plan? No. What do you mean? Do I have a plan? No, I don't have a plan. And I said, well, how are you going to change your situation? She goes, I'm just going to keep paying the minimum. There's nothing I can do. And I was just kind of in shock that people can have that approach. But unfortunately, there's a lot of people out there that don't have a plan. And when stuff really breaks down, they're definitely not going to have a plan. When you look at what's going on in the world, the amount of debt. And now, here's what's going to happen. When the money starts flooding down the pyramid, you're going to see all of this money move down. You're going to see all this money move down, all this money move down. And as you start squeezing all that money in these lower categories, what do you think is going to happen to the price of gold? Well, gold price is going to skyrocket. Now, it's not a theory. This is kind of factual because we've seen it kind of happen in 2011. We've seen people start buying, putting into gold, putting into silver. Now, there's a lot more money today out there than there was back in 2011. The funny thing is, silver is not even where it was in 2011, still to this day. I think we're going to see an explosion in the silver price. I think we're going to see gold continue to climb higher and higher. When that happens, you're going to see essentially two prices. You're going to see a paper price because they're still going to want to try to hold on to the system. They're going to want to fight it. There's always going to be government entities that are trying to manipulate the system to keep control of it. But eventually, when control is lost, you're going to see maybe a paper price of silver, $60, let's say, and then all of a sudden you're going to see physical. No one's going to sell it for 60 because they know what's going on. At that point, people are waking up in masses. Once they realize that, they're going to flood their money into gold and silver. Now, what do you think an ounce of silver is going to be when the paper price says 60, but there's no one out there selling it? Well, people will say, hey, I'll buy some off you for 100, 120, maybe even 150. We could literally see triple the price difference. And we've seen this happen in 2011. What we've seen in 2011 was $50 silver on paper, but we had people trying to buy silver eagles at $80 a piece. Now, that's not triple, obviously. That's just a 60% climb. But a 60% over what they're saying the price is, essentially there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be frantic trying to they want to have theirs when stuff happens. Think about what happened with toilet paper during the whole cough. People were going into these places like Walmart and Sam's Club, and when they got down to the last ones, at first, yeah, they might have a nice orderly line. Oh, yeah, we had a whole truckload come in. And, they got the truck unloaded, and there's a huge line. Everybody's waiting in line to get their case of toilet paper or whatever, and everybody buying the maximum you can buy. But then all of a sudden, we're almost out, and people start looking, and then frantic sets in. People start trying to cut. People try to start pushing people out of the way because they know if they stay in the line where they're at, they're not going to get toilet paper. They can already see the last pallet sitting there, and they're calculating it in their head. They're counting it up, and they want theirs. And it's going to be the same way when stuff starts collapsing. Everybody is going to want theirs. Everybody's going to want to cover themselves. And that's when essentially stuff's going to get really ugly. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. How soon? Everybody wants to know. That's the big question. How soon? When is this going to happen? That everybody is going to essentially go frantic and crazy for gold or silver. Now, nobody knows, obviously, but you take a look at what's going on, and people realize that this can't go on forever. We're seeing what happens when countries essentially try to do this forever, because countries have tried. Do you think Venezuela got to the point where they just gave up and said, okay, that's it, we give up? No. Venezuela tried holding it together for a long time. And little by little, people woke up and started preparing. And once supplies started running out, that's when things got vicious. Same with Zimbabwe, same with Cyprus, same with Weimar Germany. Once you understand that, you understand how crazy stuff can get real quick. And people are going to want physical. They're going to want physical items that they can hold in their hand, that they have the possession of, and that will be it. And when that happens, you're going to see all the money essentially just totally flip and come down here. And yeah, a lot of people will say, I would rather have, beans, rice, brass, pew seeds, whatever you want to call it. Since we try to stay away from certain words on here just because it gets frowned on by Big Brother. But needless to say, when the money starts flowing in, we're going to see stuff just get crazy. Now, we haven't seen hyperinflation in this country yet, and a lot of people have this belief that hyperinflation can never happen in the United States. But people only think that until it happens. Oh, well, that was Venezuela. That's not the United States. What do you think Venezuela said when people talked about this in Venezuela, but they were talking about Weimar Germany or Zimbabwe? They laughed. They said that can never happen here. We're the second richest country in South America. And yes, they were. And look what happened to them. They collapsed just like everybody else. Well, now, soon you'll be able to say, we were the richest country in the world, the United States of America, and boom, that's it. It's gone, wiped out instantly. And it's going to take a lot of people's life savings. And a lot of people are going to be devastated. But that's a wealth transfer. That's an opportunity for some to move up if they prepared. And some, obviously, with every person that gains money, someone essentially is losing money. And most of us in the community have seen our precious metals go up over the last couple of years. Excuse me. Ugh, tired. So we'll see how this plays out. I'm excited to see how gold and silver will play out for the rest of the week. Only because we have the Fed meeting next week, and that could really... we could see some crazy stuff happen. And honestly, I think they will cut interest rates now. This time, I think is going to be the time that they do finally cut interest rates. And when that happens, we could see gold and silver really skyrocket. Or we could essentially see the dollar collapse or something major happen. There's a lot of scenarios that could play out. Too many to count right now. Until the Fed meeting, and so I'm curious to see how that's going to play out. I will keep my eye on gold and silver, looking for a nice dip, an opportunity, and I'm thinking it's wise for other people to kind of pay attention and look what's going on. Now, this is not financial advice, nor should it be considered as such. However, it is definitely something for you to consider. Put it in your thoughts, think about it for a little bit, maybe do some reading on it, and then boom, you'll realize, I think, that you'll come up with the same conclusion as I have, that essentially safe haven assets like gold, silver, making sure that you have food, water, medical supplies, medicines, that type of stuff. Make sure you have all that on hand, so if things do break down, you're going to be okay. With that being said, thank you so much for watching, commenting. I hope you all have a great day, and I will see you guys again on T-Square Talk. Take care, everybody, and have a good one. Please don't forget to hit that thumbs up button, hit that subscribe if you're new to the channel, and I will see you guys again tomorrow with another great video.